Hello and welcome to the radiotimes.com Doctor Who podcast. My name's Hugh, and once again, I'm joined this week by Rob Lean. Hi, Rob.
Hello, Hugh. How are you doing? I ask
Uh,
as if we haven't been sat on this Zoom call for a few minutes already.
yeah. We just leap right in. No preamble. I've never actually spoken to Rob outside the confines of a Doctor Who podcast. I don't know where he lives. I don't know his middle name. Never seen him IRL ever. It's we just do this for you. It's all for the, I was going to say for the cameras. It's all for the microphones. Same with Morgan, Helen, whoever else you've heard on this podcast. It's all lies. But no, Rob is back with me. Obviously, Rob was with me last week talking about The Swarm, although that was actually a few weeks ago. So we've had a little break in podcasting, although not from your perspective, but we're back now. And we're talking about something quite special. We're talking about Doctor Who's Centenary special. Yes, so there's been loads of Doctor Who news in the news recently. Stuff about Series 13, Jodie Whittaker's leaving, Chris Chibnall's leaving, Jacob Anderson's joined. There's so much stuff to kind of digest. And one thing that we have touched on, but I think has been a little bit overshadowed by all the other news, is the fact that, well, the BBC are doing a centenary special of Doctor Who, which is quite interesting. Rob, actually, do you want to? We've got a couple of quotes from the BBC and from the drama boss Piers Wenger. I don't know if you want to read those out because that's kind of most of the information we've had about this special.
Sure. Yeah, the official BBC quote, I assume from like the
From the
Jodie's
original
leaving
press release.
press release, says with a 6-part event serial announced for the autumn and 2 specials already planned for 2022, BBC One has now asked for an additional final feature-length adventure for the 13th Doctor to form a trio of specials for 2022. So that's what Beeb says. Do you want the Piers Wenger one as well?
Yep, let's go for it.
Piers Wenger, who I always picture it's like Piers Morgan meets Arsene Wenger. It's like there's two.
You've nailed him, spot on. It's just like that.
He says, Jodie's final adventure to mark the BBC's centenary in 2022 is set to be a Doctor Who special to remember.
So that's the first thing we've kind of heard about it. So obviously it's pretty like, we're not exactly saying, oh, and she'll face off with the Master. It's quite like obscure, but it is quite interesting because obviously we've got a lot of stuff coming up. We've got the 6-part Series 13. We've got a New Year's Day festive special and a spring special, which we really don't know much about at all. The thing with the centenary special that makes it sort of easier to sort of get your hands on is I think it's a bit unusual. We've had Doctor Who commemorate its own anniversary before, obviously in things like the Day of the Doctor and, the 5 Doctors, whatever. Or the 3 Doctors originally, but we've never really had Doctor Who commemorating an anniversary for the BBC, I don't think. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. The fact that it's also going to be Jodie's Regeneration episode is interesting, and the fact that it wasn't part of the plan. They said we're going to do 8 episodes because of COVID. We're going to, have to strip things back from 11 to just do 8. And then they've announced they're going to do this serial thing. And then this is sort of on top of it. There's this quote from Chris Chibnall, which is quite interesting, in Doctor Who magazine, which I'll read out, which said, he wrote, "We could have finished our time here. 8 episodes filmed under strict, efficient COVID protocols. Then, earlier this year, BBC Director of Content Charlotte Moore asked if we'd consider finishing Jodie's era with an additional special for the BBC's planned centenary celebrations in autumn of 2022. So numbers were crunched, conversations were had, deep breaths were taken, more testing kits were ordered, and contracts were extended. Onwards to the centenary special." Dun dun dun. So yeah, I think yeah, exactly. So I'm pretty sure, based on kind of what people have said and so on, that I think that's what they're filming at the moment. I think they filmed everything else. I think it was literal when he was saying that. I think they are at the moment, or in the next few weeks anyway, filming that special, which is exciting. And then they'll be done. Well, most of them anyway, depending on what happens with the changeover. So yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean, it's interesting in that they clearly otherwise would have intended to finish Jodie's special sort of storyline in the spring, and now presumably they'll have to shift that in some way. And equally, if it's a centenary special about the BBC, I mean, what do we think? Does it have to be about more than just a Doctor Who story and about Jodie leaving?
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you think it will, in the context of the actual episode, have anything to do with the BBC? I mean,
like the foundation of kind of thing.
That's going to do like the story, the secret story of how the Doctor created the BBC. Now, my mind kind of went to the opposite end of the BBC story, and it was like the Doctor has to save BBC from
cuts, from government cuts. Yeah. Are you just imagining there's that famous? I think this is a BBC thing. So sorry if I'm wrong, but that famous clip of some guy playing violin, which was like one of the first things ever broadcast, and it's like that, but he's attacked by Slitheen. And if he doesn't finish his piece of violin, the world's going to end. I mean, they did do the Unquiet Dead. The Idiot's Lantern was obviously a bit TV themed back in the David Tennant era, and they had a bit of like some sort of 1950s stuff, Queen's Speech. You know, it's not the Queen's Speech. Sorry, it was the coronation. It was the Queen's coronation, and they had the like TV tower and the Doctor climbing up. They kind of have played around with some of these conventions before, but yeah, I don't know. It's weird because I feel like I can't imagine it the way you're describing it, the way I'm talking about. I'm like, how could that be anything except extremely cringeworthy? Like, just for Doctor kind of looking at New Broadcasting House with like a single tear rolls down her cheek. She's like, the independent BBC, so important. And like, can the BBC exist in Doctor Who? I think it does, because we've seen BBC News, but that BBC, I guess, doesn't broadcast Doctor Who. You'd think.
Yeah. Oh, I saw a clip the other day that was, it must have been for a few years ago, because it was Peter Capaldi in costume, I think, and he was like doing a bit about like how the Doctor became aware of Doctor Who, the TV show. And I don't know, if that makes me think of, did you see that Red Dwarf Back to Earth thing? When Red Dwarf found out that Red Dwarf was a TV show, and then inexplicably went to the set of Coronation Street. Could we see that? But the Doctor goes to EastEnders.
We've seen that. That is a 90s special for I can't remember which anniversary it was. I think it was. Let me check. I think it was called Shattered Dimensions or something. I think I'm getting it wrong. Okay, I can't remember what it was. But yeah, they had Peter Davison and everyone kind of go along to EastEnders for, I think it must have been the 25th anniversary of Doctor Who or something like that. Yeah, so it has been, I think 30th actually. I think the 30th anniversary they did that. So yeah, it has been a thing that's been done before. So basically, I think we can call for that. We can say, do that again, get Doctor Who back on back on EastEnders. Dimensions in Time, that was it. So yeah, it was ran in 2 parts in 1993. And yeah, it was basically, they had Tom Baker and Peter Davison and Sophie Aldred and stuff like that, all turning up just to kind of be in EastEnders briefly. Yeah, it's great.
How great would it be if Jodie's regeneration story was in EastEnders? Like she dies in a pub fire or something, like the way people do in EastEnders.
Set by Phil, who's getting the insurance money. That would be great. To be honest, there's a serious point there in terms of like, I have wondered about the fact that they said, Jodie's regeneration episode is going to be this centenary thing. And I'm kind of like, I do wonder if that might take away from it a little bit. Like, I did feel, in a weird sort of way, Peter Capaldi's final episode was obviously supposed to be the Doctor Falls, and then they decided to do the extra one just so Doctor Who didn't lose the Christmas slot, is what Stephen Moffat has said, which then obviously it did anyway.
They want it anyway,
yeah. But I always thought that was kind of an interesting episode, because the Doctor's regenerating pretty much the whole way through, and basically they just have the first Doctor and stuff, and obviously they have Mark Gatiss is there as the captain, Pearl Mackie's back, and it kind of felt like it wasn't as strong a regeneration as if Peter Capaldi had just regenerated in the previous episode, because they kind of added this little extra bit on. And I do worry about this centenary special. If they had this great plan for Jodie regenerating in this other special, I mean, what have they just been like? Oh yeah, we'll just cut off that scene, and she'll be like, "Oh, I've been killed in this emotionally satisfying way. I've said goodbye to my companions." Wait a minute, is that Lord Reith? What? Lord Reith in the TARDIS. I could just see it, and I'll be like, "Oh no." But I guess it depends, right? It's like, I think we're maybe thinking of it a little too literally, in terms of it's like, oh, it's a BBC centenary. Lord Reith's going to be there, and he's going to say, "Doctor, I've got a job for you." No, it's probably more likely to be like, Doctor Who's been a part of the BBC for a long time, right? About I guess probably about half its lifetime. If you're thinking from slightly over half its lifetime, if the BBC started in 1922 properly, and Doctor Who's in 1960s, so it's about 40 years in. We're 100 years, so I'm thinking maybe it's kind of like Doctor Who's been such a part of the BBC. It's one of the only shows probably that's been on. Well, it is literally one of the only shows that's been on that long. It's going to kind of be like maybe paying tribute to the highs of Doctor Who and the BBC. And to that end, maybe this is another chance for a multi-Doctor special, which we've, all the fans want all the time. No matter what, everyone just wants to see it all the time. They ask constantly. And I have heard rumours. I've heard rumours that David Tennant could be enticed to come back for this rather than wait for the 60th or whatever. And I could see that, like I could see he was kind of such a big part of the show at its height. And also he and Jodie, obviously David Tennant and Jodie Whittaker are friends in real life, co-stars from Broadchurch. And their doctors are portrayed quite similarly. They're both quite young doctors, quite kind of upbeat and kind of like, I don't know, sociable in a way. I could see it happening. I mean, what do you think? Would you like to see that? Would you like to see David Tennant back if this rumor has anything behind it beyond wishful thinking?
Yeah, I feel like he gets rumored quite a lot for things, but like he's doing that Edge of Reality video game, and Jodie Whittaker's in that as well.
It's a gateway. It was a gateway. Robber's gaming editor is here with the gaming Doctor Who points as ever. But yeah, it was a gateway it's a gateway role to coming back to Doctor Who proper.
Yeah, and like he's probably of all the modern Doctors, the one who feels like he hasn't really left. I think he's the only one who's kind of properly come back to the show, and like he's always joking about Doctor Who. Like there was lots of Doctor Who stuff in Staged, for example, starring Michael Sheen, RadioTimes.com readers' most wanted new Doctor.
True. Yeah, that's the point. And maybe he'll be in it as well with his pal David Tennant, as the next Doctor. That'd be great. Equally as I feel like he obviously does Big Finish. He plays the 10th Doctor in that, and he's done it in games and stuff. Like you say, like he's one of the biggest Doctor Who fans who's been in Doctor Who, I think, and he sort of remained so. Like he said, like when he was leaving, if I don't leave now, you'll have to wheel me out of the TARDIS in my bath chair. And like I've always, and I think there's a little bit of truth in that. Like I think he is still very fond of it. Equally though, maybe there could be other Doctors involved. Like Tom Baker has been doing quite a lot of Doctor Who stuff recently. If I could find a way to get him to somehow reprise his role, that would really kind of like, obviously he's the oldest, the furthest back living Doctor at this stage, but they could also, bring in David Bradley, who's always game for doing a bit of First Doctor stuff. It's canonized. I mean, he's not the first person to take over for the First Doctor anyway, because obviously William Hartnell passed away before the 5 Doctors. I think it was Richard Hurndall who played him in that. So yeah, it could happen. I mean, I'm even thinking Peter Capaldi was asked recently, would you come back from multi-Doctor special? And he said, oh, I think, the less those are used, the more effective they are. And basically slightly like, whatever. And I'm like, that's the sort of thing you might say if you were going to do one. trying to put us off the scent, Capaldi. I see your game.
Yeah, exactly. Just like, Willem Dafoe and Andrew Garfield and various other people continuing to astutely, repeatedly say that they're not in the new Spider-Man film. Like, come on.
And you got an Alfred Molina type who's just like, yeah, I'm in it. And what? What are you going to do? What are you going to fire me? I'm Doc Ock. I can do what I like. Yeah. So we just need someone like that to break the code of silence around the Doctor Who special. We need, Billy Piper or someone to be like, yeah, I'm in it. I'm in loads, and so are all these other people. What are you going to do, BBC? I'm Rose Tyler. Just have that. That'd be great. Yeah. So fingers crossed. Yeah. No, I'd be interested. I feel like if we were ever going to get a multi-Doctor special again for something, this feels like it would be a kind of interesting way of doing it. It wouldn't just be, we did the 50th, and that was huge. Like that's a huge anniversary. They did all this stuff. It was such a triumph. Hard doing it for the 60th is kind of like 60th isn't as cool a like anniversary. It's sort of just like another 10 years on. Like it's quite good, but it's not like amazing. It's not like 50, half a century, and like they've kind of done, they got David Tennant back. They had Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi briefly, John Hurt. It's kind of like, are they going to get that kind of thing again for that? But then it's like, if you're commemorating 100 years of something, do you know what I mean? Like it's, and of this bigger organization and the Doctor Who's a part of, and it's sort of explicitly saying, Doctor Who is a key plank of this kind of, you know, thing. I feel like that says something different. And I feel like, to be honest, you might be more likely to tempt back previous Doctors, right? Like, you know, they might be like, yeah, I'm going to show my support for the BBC.
Yeah, that'd be a good like say slight bargaining chip to try and tempt some people back a bit more, to say, hey, it's not just Doctor Who, it's also showing some love for the BBC.
I'm not sure if it would work on Christopher Eccleston, but he's in BBC stuff, so I'm sure he'd be fine. But you know, but yeah, I'd be interested to see what goes on. Equally, it could just be it's, you know, Jodie Whittaker having some sort of adventure. It just feels like, if you're going to do that, why wouldn't you just move the spring one to the autumn and say this is part of the BBC series? Do you know what I mean? Like, it feels like it has to like nod to it in some way, whether it's like explicitly in the story or just in like the momentous nature of it. Like maybe kind of showing all the older Doctors and then being like, and Jodie moves on and here's the next Doctor. I mean, it's been done before, right? It's been done, you know, in The Day of the Doctor. It's been done in Twice Upon a Time. They've kind of had that similar thing, but I don't know. I think they do it because it works. And I think if they could kind of make sure Jodie's the star of it and kind of it is a big one for her. I mean, to be honest, it could even arguably work in a way where, like, if she has her like goodbye to Jodie's era in like, you know, winter, spring, and then has goodbye to Jodie herself as the Doctor a bit later on, because, you know, it's her casting as the first female Doctor was such a big deal. Like that kind of preceded everything else, you know, the TARDIS team, you know, the Master, whatever, all that stuff came, the Timeless Child, all that stuff came later. Like Jodie herself was a big thing. So maybe it would merit, you know, bye to Jodie's era, then bye to Jodie. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like I said, as much as we've been chatting on about this for like however many minutes, it's kind of like we really don't know anything because obviously it's so far out, and there's, you know, apart from maybe a rumor about David Tennant being in it, there's not much flying around. But equally, what is a centenary special? Like, like I don't know what that is. Like, I don't think anything else has been around long enough to have a 100-year special. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting, right? I mean, it's fun to speculate about, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to put on the record my prediction that the Doctor and the TARDIS will land on the set of Line of Duty and will be handed a Reg, whatever it is, 15.
Reg 15, yeah. I'm trying to think if there's any crossover between Doctor Who and Line of Duty. I mean, there must be. I can't really think of anyone though. So maybe it would all be fine. Yeah, it'd just be, you know, Adrian Dunbar is, you know, the Doctor. That'd be a great twist. He's in disguise. Yeah, no, to be honest, I'm now thinking of all that stuff, you know, Line of Duty, on Strictly Come Dancing, the Doctor bursts out the TARDIS, they're on the dance floor. It's like, oh no, all these wacky moments.
What was that Christopher Eccleston episode where he goes on the weakest link and he goes on Big Brother?
Yeah, with the rope with the Anbot, and yeah, and he goes on Big Brother. Yeah, that would be great. Oh man, yeah, just that, but like, I don't know. I don't think what would be on like Pointless or like The Wheel and whatever else they have on there.
Oh god, it's The Wheel, but like all 10 people, they're all just different Doctors.
Yeah, oh, that'd be good. That'd be so good. They did do a Doctor Who Weakest Link once with like David Tennant and K9 and stuff, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, well. And there was a Doctor Who Buzzcocks as well, wasn't there? That was good.
There was, yeah, with David Tennant and all that. Yeah, but I think it was David Tennant's last year. They kind of went all out and just put Doctor Who on literally every single show. But, you know, I'm not complaining. Maybe that's what they'll do again. It's also interesting, you know, not to digress, but we don't know anything about the BBC Centenary, really, apart from the fact that they're doing a Doctor Who special. So it's interesting, you know, I mean, on another note, you know, is this the only one? Are they going to do these things with other shows that have been around for a while? You know, presumably you'd think they do something with things like EastEnders or Strictly, things that they do kind of in-house. But, you know, you look at something like Line of Duty, you look at stuff like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like older shows that are like classics. I can only think of the new ones because I'm, you know, just very shallow. But, you know, anything, Gavin and Stacey in recent years, you know, all the older classic comedies, Vicar of Dibley and stuff like that, it's kind of like, are we in for like a lot of this sort of stuff? And, you know, could that inform us in any way about what to expect from Doctor Who? Or is it just Jodie Whittaker teams up with Lord Reith to save the BBC from a Dalek who's like really anti, you know, public broadcasters as part of, you know, to steal a gem that will power the Dalek race to new heights or whatever nonsense. I mean, if that isn't the story, I'll definitely write that for my own gratification and, you know, send it in. and and maybe I'll get a nice letter back, cease and desist. But yeah. Anyway, sorry, I've probably rambled on long enough about what I think about the Centenary special. But what do you think, people listening at home? Are you excited by the possible rumours of David Tennant coming back? Do you think it's fair for Jodie Whittaker to share her exit story with the BBC's big anniversary, or do you think they should have made them two separate things? And equally, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think it's going to be a whistle-stop tour through the history of the Beeb, or do you think it's more likely to kind of pay tribute to Doctor Who itself? Please let us know in the comments on YouTube, or at Radio Times on Twitter, however you want to get in touch. You'll also find the podcast on Acast. In the coming weeks with this podcast, just to let you know, we might be making some changes. So we will let you know about those as and when those turn up. But for now, we'll hopefully see you next week for another installment. Until then, I've been Hugh.
And I've been Rob.
And I look forward to the centenary of this podcast, in that it sounds like I've been talking for about 100 years. Goodbye.